find Enrique Iglesias, Julio Iglesias' son, to be extremely attractive. I think he's really, really cute. There are others. I like Johnny Depp a lot, too. We're going to see what happens, with my Spanish background, if we want to play that into the picture.
Just like Christina Aguilera herself, the new millennium was here and in full flow. And it was hardly surprising that she picked up exactly where she left off. Yet another live show was top of her packed agenda, and a high-profile one it proved to be, as she joined another rising singer, Enrique Iglesias, to perform a duet at the nationally broadcast Super Bowl halftime show. The Super Bowl being one of the most garlanded events in America's sporting calendar, and as its live national broadcast all but guaranteed a multi-million audience figure. The mind boggled as to what such an audience might mean for Christina's record sales. Without doubt, the invitation to perform at such a prestigious event also served to indicate how far the youngster had travelled, and, of course, what she had achieved in just a few short years. Not for the first time, the Super Bowl allowed her to breathe rarefied air in that she shared stage space with several established superstars, which this time included Phil Collins and Toni Braxton. In addition to her ubiquitous presence in the public domain, there were, yet again, more awards for her to collect, and distinguished awards they were too. She received 2 nominations at the celebrated US Grammy Awards, in which she was shortlisted for Best New Act and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. In what was arguably the peak of her career so far, top female musicians Sheryl Crow, Sarah McLachlan and Melissa Etheridge stepped up onto the platform to announce that Christina Aguilera had won the high-standing honour of becoming Best New Artist. It was a phenomenal achievement, and a tribute not only to her talent, but also to her commitment and hard work, especially as her debut album had been in the record shops for only 6 months. In spite of the profuse recognition offered to her from both the industry and her peers, a cool and collected attitude was essential, as there was still much work to do in promoting the album. Firstly, a new single had been selected for release, the song that had in fact been chosen as a potential single during recording of the album. What a Girl Wants was a top 3 hit in the UK chart parade, but back home in the States, not only did the track give her a second consecutive #1 single, it also achieved the enviable status of becoming the very first chart topper of the new millennium. With that kind of publicity added to the Grammy success, and with the media marketing machine behind her, it was unsurprising that her self-titled album would become a multi-platinum seller several times over in less than a year. However, Christina still had a burning ambition to achieve in her home country, something she had fulfilled in other parts of the world, but had not yet extended to the United States. In spite of her vast live experience, she had yet to undertake a tour of any kind in the US. Her sudden rise into the upper echelons of popular music, though, suggested that her debut national tour of music venues across America would be ecstatically received. Her performing credentials were second to none, and with all of the experience under her belt, there was no reason to believe that a tour would be anything less than a spectacular success. In addition to meeting her home fans face-to-face for the first time, the tour would provide her with a brand new challenge. It would allow her to give something back to those many fans who had helped make her a superstar. And there would also be the more intimate pleasure of having her own band and her own dancers on the road alongside her. The rousing success of the tour, the extent of the debut album sales, and the fresh impetus of her thrilling live performances gave Christina every right to be proud of her phenomenal accomplishments. Yet, after a punishing 2 years spent virtually camped either in the recording studio or on the road, she was not yet ready to slow up, as there was so much more to do. Music had become the central driving force in her life, and there was yet another challenge awaiting her. Latin America. Here she comes.
I like to write songs about experiences that I've been through. I don't just like to write about anything off the top of my head. Love itself can get pretty boring to write about, so that's partly why I like the song Reflection so much, is because it's about self-love, I guess. It's about finding yourself, and, it's not about, am I ever going to see him again type thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool.
She might have finally got her first home tour under her belt, but she had a debt to pay to the rest of the world, which had helped her achieve superstar status. Christina had been fortunate enough to hone her musical skills in various parts of the globe, and this had not only helped her mature as a performer, but also gave her the opportunity to broaden her musical horizons and generate a diverse musical palette. It was this latter point which would motivate her next step on the ladder, as she set about consolidating her career following the success of her debut album and inaugural American tour. Naturally proud of her Ecuadorian background, Christina was keen to learn more about the cultural history of Latin America and also explore the Latin side of her own personality. With her album still doing brisk business at the record counter, at home and in Europe, and her reputation as a charismatic live performer already well established, Christina was in the desirable position of perhaps experimenting with anything she wished musically, which at this point in time was to record a Spanish-language album in deference to her family's Hispanic heritage. This was made possible thanks to the timely intervention of Spanish music producer Rudy Perez, who worked with Christina on what would become an intriguing collection of songs. The final result of their collaboration was a complete album, fittingly entitled Mi Reflejo, Spanish for My Reflection, which combined several new songs specially written for the project, buffeted by a number of tracks lifted from her English-language debut and re-recorded in Spanish. The 11-track disc was released in the autumn months of the year 2000 and was destined to make music history. By entering the US Billboard Latin Music Chart at number 1, the record awarded Christina Aguilera the worthy prize of becoming the first ever artist to have an English and Spanish language album both debut at number 1 in their respective charts. With her Latin American exploration fulfilled and her many Spanish fans delighted with the album, Christina and RCA wasted no time in setting their keen eyes upon the next project. Another single was lifted from the debut album and was ready for worldwide release. Come On Over Baby would follow the well-worn path already taken by the two previous singles, going all the way to the top. It appeared that Christina's first album was made of gold and could seemingly do no wrong. In fact, the debut album would continue to sell even as she focused her sight upon a new record. This next project would be equally as intriguing as her foray into Latin music. With one eye on the approaching Christmas market, Christina was keen to continue her generosity and provide her fans with a special Christmas gift. She might have been ending the year with her third chart-topping single, but she was nowhere near finished with 2000 yet. In a decision that would thrill her vast army of fans yet again, Christina was to join the Yuletide festivities by recording an album of Christmas songs. Excitingly, the project would mark Christina's songwriting debut, as she would co-write a number of new tracks, chiefly as a lyricist, and these would sit snugly alongside her own unique versions of several established Christmas favourites. The record was enriched with the luscious sound of a 70-piece orchestra, and once recording was underway, it was apparent to those involved in the project that an album of true originality was being created. This was largely thanks to the amazing R&B production, which gave the record a truly fresh and funky feel. Two of the songs fitting nicely into that funky category were Christmas Time and This Year, the latter being one of the tunes co-written by Christina, both songs sharing a hard-edged vocal style and lashings of attitude. Released under the intimate title My Kind of Christmas, the album also included the perennial Christmas favourite, The Christmas Song, and of course a range of other seasonal classics such as Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and Oh Holy Night. It would be one of the original songs that would be chosen to represent the album, and would give Christina her first Christmas hit single. The song was entitled Merry Christmas Baby, a track which saw her head in yet another musical direction, being a tune bathed in the style of blues music and featuring the work of longtime blues hero Dr. John on co-vocals. The song might not have been traditionally Christmas-based in its production style, but this merely served to highlight Christina's individuality, a characteristic for which she was now becoming increasingly admired. Amongst music writers and fans, the record was regarded as an artistic triumph. Such was its notable departure from the standard Christmas musical fare, as well as being yet another example of Christina's seemingly endless talent and ability to create something original in many different musical styles. Within only 2 months of the album's release, it sold in excess of 2 million copies, once again giving her an album of multi-platinum status. The end of the year 2000 was notable in that it provided Christina with a personal milestone. On the 18th of December that year, she turned 20 years of age, and her busy and fruitful teenage years were now finally behind her. Which was fitting, as the quality of performance she'd skillfully executed in her work on both Mi Rifleggio and her Christmas album heralded a fresh start for the new, mature Christina Aguilera. The last few years had been extraordinarily prosperous in both her personal achievements and record sales, and there was no sign that the success was about to dry up. But perhaps it was time to move on. Her teenage years were now a thing of the past for Christina Aguilera, but were the days of teen idol pop music? Whatever the direction, given her track record, she would no doubt be victorious. As it happened, it would simply get better and better. Come on in, 2001.
Well, if you write your own music, that's definitely a plus. Representation is probably a good thing if you can get represented by a manager or an agent. It's easier to get your foot in the door than, going around yourself and knocking on every label's, door yourself. But, how I did it was me and my manager put together a demo tape of 3 songs and also a video cassette. So those things combined, we put together as a package deal and sent it out to record labels and see which one would bite.
Such was her impression upon music fans, and indeed upon record sales figures the world over. It could be cogently argued that the first 2 years of Christina Aguilera's professional career saw her conquer everything in her path. And yet with Christina only just grown up, she could achieve so much more. She was now 20 years of age and was ready to take on the world for a second time. There seemed to be no stopping her, and yet another award marked the beginning of 2001, with a nomination for American Music Awards Favourite Pop and Rock Female Artist. Award success was to be a reoccurring theme throughout the early months of the year, as she again featured on the list of Grammy nominations, this time for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance for the hit single What a Girl Wants, and also for the Best Latin Pop Album for Mi Rifleggio. On the new recording front, a series of duets and collaborations would further widen her musical range, and in January 2001, Ricky Martin invited Christina to lend her talents to a re-recording of his song Nobody Wants to Be Lonely. The track proved very popular on radio and amongst music fans, and went to number 1 within weeks of its single release. The next collaboration would mark Christina's return to film soundtrack work. Teaming up with fellow young pop stars Lil' Kim, Maya and Pink, Christina recorded a version of the classic hit Lady Marmalade for the movie Moulin Rouge. Like Reflection from her Moulin days, this track was also released as a single to promote the film, and it proved to be a transatlantic success, eventually topping the US Billboard singles chart for 5 consecutive weeks, and by the summer was also the British number 1. The summer months would bring another surprise, although not an entirely welcome one, when, in August, a handful of songs Christina recorded as a fresh-faced 14-year-old surfaced on an album entitled Just Be Free. Although certainly not representative of her future material, the album showcased the early potential of her astonishing voice, and in its mixture of ballads, mid-tempo and high-energy pop songs, was merely a taster of what was to come in her later, all-conquering years. Christina ultimately distanced herself from the project, but nevertheless, the album was a modest success amongst her most hardened fans. Tragic events in America towards the end of 2001 brought Christina back into collaborative work and into the arena of charity recordings. A Latin American-tinged fundraising single entitled El Último Adiós, translated as The Last Goodbye, was a huge seller, and she also contributed to the all-star tribute benefit single What's Going On. Both songs raised much money for their respective charities. In spite of the success of her myriad collaborations, it was only a matter of time before she would return to work as Christina Aguilera, the solo artist. However, the lack of opportunity to catch breath finally forced Christina to take a break, as constant recording, performing and appearances in the public eye finally took its toll on her health. In addition, the breakup of a close and personal relationship led to her having a self-confessed breakdown, and members of her family travelled to her Los Angeles home to help nurse her back to health. The enforced break would do her the power of good, and would suitably recharge her batteries for another assault on the album charts. It was, of course, her love of music that encouraged her back to the public domain, the creative side of her nature refusing to allow her to bow out completely, and one eye had been kept firmly on the next phase in her career plan throughout her illness. It was thus that a recording studio was booked for her in early 2002. Her time spent on the road and at home had generated many ideas for potential songs, as well as having several fully formed tunes ready to record. The time had come for her to return to solo duties and begin work on her second album. Get ready, world, because here she comes, all over again.
I would love to team up on a duet with Madonna. She's like so amazing to me. I mean, as an entertainer and her all-around artistry is just amazing to me. And I would love to collaborate on a project with her one day.
Finally, glowing with health once more, with a sense of urgency, and determined to create a smash hit album worthy of following the monster success of her debut, the welcome return of Christina Aguilera to the recording studio was to be important for her future in so many ways. After spending much time since the release of her first album, consolidating her early success and establishing her place in the hearts of pop fans across the world, it was now time to convince everyone she could carry her talent forward into a second, blockbusting record. In addition to this, there was the not unexpected media backlash to contend with, as many commentators suddenly labelled her a Britney Spears clone. Such was the perceived similarity in both image and music between Christina and her former Mickey Mouse Club contemporary. And so it was, with a fiery sense of determination and a great desire to reaffirm her own musical identity, that Christina finally entered a Los Angeles recording studio in early 2002. It was this raging fire in the belly that would help produce a startlingly fresh record, full of raunch and attitude. In short, the new grown-up Christina Aguilera was in evidence. This change of direction would be an audacious step forward for Christina, in that it would finally liberate her from the previous constraints of teen idol pop and plant her firmly in the arena of grown-up rock and roll. In order to heavily underline this new, hard-edged approach, the album was given the intimidating title of Stripped, and it offered the fans true value for money, consisting of 16 brand new songs. Upon listening to the album, reviewers were given little option but to accept this was an artist in the throes of exploring her fully matured sexuality and very much at the top of her game. This was also the reinvigoration of an already hugely successful pop star wishing in no way to tread water, but to stamp her proliferating individuality upon an increasingly unvaried music scene. The long overdue holiday, enforced though it was, had obviously regenerated her drained energy and spirit, and the sound that emerged from the record was of a Christina Aguilera refreshed and in fighting form. The brainchild behind much of the album was Scott Storch, responsible for some of the best work of rap star Dr. Dre, and the appearance of such a quality producer, not high profile, but nevertheless hugely admired by music insiders, pricked up many an ear. However, the first single release of Christina's new album would be Dirty, a solid slice of modern funk written by musical innovators rapper Redman and Rockwilder. The rest of the album would continue to read like a who's who of modern pop production. After talking to many musicians who had expressed a keen interest in working with her, Christina narrowed down the field, and her final team provided a strong backbone. This included the likes of Pink collaborator Linda Perry, producer Glenn Ballard, famous for his work with Alanis Morissette, and perhaps most notably Alicia Keys, already an international singer-songwriter in her own right. Although Christina had such a wealth of talent to call upon, she remained firmly at the helm every step of the way, and the final recording was impressive in its wide-ranging diversity and style. Not only that, but the 16 tracks were considered startlingly original and mature in delivery, qualities which resonate throughout the record. The Alicia Keys penned Impossible, a dreamy ballad, sets the stage beautifully and gives way to the romanticism of Can't Hold Us Down. The uplifting Beautiful, the album's second single, sets the heart fluttering, and the rockier Makeover both assisted in making this album yet another critical and commercial hit for Christina. Furthermore, the album's closing song, a ballad entitled Keep On Singing My Song, gives the impression that this album might be the pivotal recording in her, so far, short discography. That the album was given the title Stripped was no toss-of-a-coin moment. It was a deliberate choice that reflected much about Christina at this stage of her life and career. It is symbolic in that it strips her clean of the gloss and the hype that has gone before, such is the marked change of direction in her music. Additionally, as she's contributed much of her own lyrics to the album, it has allowed her to explore her personal life and lay some ghosts to rest in a way that had not previously been open to her. The lyrics allude to her early relationship with her father and what she herself experienced as a consequence of her parents' difficult union. The album suggests its writing and recording was a cathartic process, making it a much more personal project for Christina, and also an intimate listening experience for the fans. What the album also signifies is the departure of Christina Aguilera, the teeny pop darling. The young, wide-eyed singer of 1998 is no longer with us. In her place has appeared a raunchier, rockier incarnation, a Christina Aguilera whose appeal is no longer confined purely to the pop fraternity, but also to the outer fringes of the funk and hip-hop communities. Hers is a talent envied by thousands, admired by tens of thousands, and her music has been bought by millions all around the world. The Mouseketeer has grown up.
Look what's around you, take advantage of the opportunities that are around you and check everything out, listen to records, know what's current and whatnot, and just never give up, never, ever. I mean, I was so determined never to give up, and things are really starting to happen for me now, so.
When one reflects on the astonishing achievements of Christina Aguilera over a relatively short period of time, her determination, focus, intense drive and enthusiasm for music and performance undoubtedly all play a part in her level of success. These personality traits, combined with the fact that she was born with a charismatic gift, her outstanding voice, which she has in turn bestowed upon the music world, have given rise to quality pop songs and a stage presence to rival the most successful and established pop stars. But in addition to having wowed fans the world over with her skill and passion, she's also achieved what many of us do not. She has made her own dreams come true. Indeed, surely only the harshest of critics would deny that the music world has been a better, brighter place since Christina Aguilera exploded onto the scene in 1998. In just a few short years, the musical ambitions of any young pop star have surely been realised by this phenomenally driven and talented New Yorker. But those millions of fans who have followed their idol's inspiring story from day one know full well that her journey to the top has been as rocky as it's been rapid. Despite family problems, a distracted and nomadic childhood, here was somebody with talent to burn, a youngster who has overcome all the obstacles in her path to become, as many have already hailed her, the premier voice of her generation. Praise indeed. Such praise is particularly welcome, considering her determination to establish her own style and individuality in a modern music industry awash with teeny pop idols and tribute acts. More admirable still when one takes into account the criticism she's had to endure from some sections of the media who have regarded her as merely a clone of already established musicians. That she has subsequently broken free of the regular pop herd and begun to realise the full scope of her immense talent is testimony to her single-minded focus upon achieving the ultimate dream, to become one of the best and biggest selling pop stars in the world. And having made good this ambition, she can now be viewed as one of the hottest properties in the modern pop world. Just look at the statistics. She has sold in excess of 10 million albums worldwide. She's been ecstatically welcomed in stadiums and concert halls all around the globe. And there has been endless success in award ceremonies, both at home and in Europe. Of course, there's been the usual pop star media frenzy surrounding Christina since she found fame. She's rarely been out of the newspapers and celebrity gossip magazines, which have taken an interest in her private life as much as her music career. Yet despite this personal intrusion into her life, she's been able to take most of it in her stride during her relentless march to the top. So, the question on everyone's lips is simply, where next for Christina Aguilera? Only 2 albums into her career, both of which have been phenomenally successful, it could be posited that she has the world very much at her feet. Many top movie directors have been rumoured to have her name at the top of their respective shopping lists, and a move to the world of film for a young pop star has proven historically lucrative. However, it is music that has been her closest friend, and her early form in this arena suggests further chart success is all but assured. Frankly though, such conjecture is pointless. For whatever cards the future may hold, the Christina Maria Aguilera story seems destined to go on and on.
Thank you for buying Maximum Christina Aguilera. We hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for further titles on Chrome Dreams coming up soon. If you did enjoy it or have any comments or suggestions, write to us at Chrome Dreams, PO Box 230, New Malden, Surrey, UK, KT36YY, or email on mail@chromedreams.co.uk. Details of our full catalogue are listed on our website at www.chromedreams.co.uk. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye for now.